too. Okay, welcome everyone. It is August the 24th, and we're going to listen to a channeling from Ashira, another one, and we'll start with the meditation. Here we go.
And let go of your day. Let go of your to-do list of the week ahead, of what hasn't been done, what needs to be done. And just sink into your chair, into the floor, into the bed, into your car seat, your office seat, wherever you are. Take this time just for you, for your human self, for your angelic self, for your galactic and intergalactic self. Feel yourself sinking into your chair, your seat, until you feel like you weigh 2,000 pounds. Couldn't move if you want to. And yet at the same time, you're as light as air. Feel all your energy from above and from below, gathering in your heart, sinking down into your heart, into your wonderful tri-flame of the blue diamond, and the golden diamond of the Father. And in the middle, your beautiful, miraculous pink diamond. And breathe that pink. And feel that pink that our star brothers and sisters are saturating us, bathing us in right now. Feel that gentle love, that peace and harmony and beauty. Now go down to the bottom of your rib cage, to your Halion chakra. This is a wonderful mint green, an Electra blue, some ashen blue, some electric blue. And in that mass, that wheel of mint green, see these blue lightning bolts. And open that chakra and see that this is a spiral out to your star brothers and sisters. This is one of your bridge chakras. So feel yourself anchored in your heart, but also drifting down and beginning to spiral out on that Halion spiral, out of your chair, off the carpet, off the bed, through the roof of your house, through the roof of your building, through the roof of our beautiful blue sky. Keep going. Out into the deep space. where you can see a billion stars and planets, the Milky Way. But there amongst them is your ship, a place that you like to visit or even call home. So as you continue, you direct your spiral to this location, to this landing dock. Keep going. And feel your feet alight upon the outer portal. And there to greet you are three of your favorite people, your best friends, colleagues, shipmates. And see the warm smile as they hug you or grasp your hand and shoulder, welcoming you back, welcoming you home. And the doors to the bay ship slip open as you turn and walk inside with your friends, deciding where you wish to spend some time this morning, whether it's in the gardens or in the science labs, the communication center, or simply to go to a cafe and have coffee. Relax and enjoy your time on board. Pay attention.
Okay, that was a beautiful meditation. All right, so we're at part 6 of learning how things work with the galactics. And this one again is from Ashira. So let's dive right in. Let's start with our prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, all angels and archangels, ascended masters, beloved saints, enlightened beings, star brothers and sisters, Gaia and the beings around the council fire, council of love, council that serves, our guides and guardians. We are your children and servants. We pray today for love and balance, joy for ourselves, family, friends, and co-workers, for all we intermingle with during the day, for healing of self and our beloved collective, for purity and clarity of the Divine Mother, for sacred purpose and the projects we interact with, for consensus, democracy, gender equality, peace and harmony on Gaia. Amen, amen, and amen. Okay, so this channeling is from April the 1st, 2014. And it was interesting, the lady today that I did the reading with, she was saying that we've had all these messages since 2002 approximately, and the beings on the other side like to use the word soon. So what I had to say about that was interesting, because I believe we've done so much letting go. Now in the without, the issues that really need change are very apparent, ready for the change, for the beings that are here to actually create the change. So it's a process, this ascension. It's a step-by-step, slow awakening to the change within, that gender equality within, to create it without. I mean, it took me about 10 years to understand the real gender equality within. So now, as we share that, that soon may transpire. It's just been several years. I know that Sanat Kumara did say to me 5 to 10 years, and it's been 10 years now since he said that. So we're getting, personally, I feel like we're doing well. That's me, that's my, that's how I feel about it. But anyways, here's Ashira. He says, greetings. I am Ashira, commander of the unified forces of the outer galaxies. Friend, brother, nephew, uncle, welcome. Welcome, my beloved friends. I'm happy and honored to have this opportunity to continue this conversation, not only with you, but with planet Earth, with Gaia, and with everyone and everything upon her. You know, we listen to your broadcasts, and yes, at times we even analyze them, but mostly we simply listen because it is a mechanism for all of us to feel the connection to the collective and to each of you individually to the human heart. When we have these broadcasts, yes, it goes to those who listen actively or even later to the archived material, but the energy of our transmission, of our mutual transmission goes out not only to your star brothers and sisters, but to every person on the planet. It is in the very air they breathe. Okay, so I think what he's referring to is the Porlana Sea, where they talked about it being blue and then blending with Gaia's red and creating that magenta, that compassion, that wisdom, that harmony and beauty, which is what we're moving into. You cannot do basically any form of transmission of this nature and not have it being communicated to all the human beings. That is one of the reasons why this type of transmission, this type of show, as you think of it, is increasingly important. Now, I know that there are many who are very critical of the drama and the mayhem broadcast by what you think is mainstream media, and I'm not judging. It is part and reflective of the drama that has been adopted by the human collective in the past, and I will speak to that in a moment. But in order to counterbalance and in fact to be able to tip the balance of what is truly being breathed in, it is vitally important that more and more of these heart-centered shows, of these heart-centered love transmissions take place, because that is also counteracting what else is being broadcast into the air. So all of you are doing a much bigger job than you have even thought of. And for this, I, on behalf of all the fleet, all your brothers and sisters, thank you. And Susie says, you're so, so welcome. Thank you for being part of this as well, so much. And Ashira said, it's our joy. Susie said, mine too. And Ashira goes on to say, so I know there is much that I could and will discuss, but I also know that it is important that you be able to ask your questions, and I will tell you why. The more questions you ask, the further you scratch the surface. It is a demonstration of our bond and of our commitment to true communication, not merely to disclose this or that piece of minute information. We are basically an open book available to you. Now, there are things perhaps of a scientific nature, and we define science as everything basically, that we would not discuss because simply you would not understand the formulas. But that does not mean that we're not willing to share everything you want to know. And then he asks, where do you wish to begin? And Susie says, thank you so much for coming with us again. I really appreciate it. You've already answered my first question, but I've been feeling all week that I wanted to ask you if by any chance there are questions that you have for us personally or collectively. And Ashira says, yes, there are questions that we would have, and it is to pose the questions, perhaps in paro, so that there is no sting or judgment attached. But there are a few things that we wonder about and would question. First, we wish to remind you, because it is puzzling to us, several weeks ago, Archangel Gabriel graced the airwaves in An Hour with an Angel and asked for the partnership to be formed to gather all those who would not honor women, who would not embrace the peace and gender equality of all beings, and to gather those into a topaz blue box, a partnership with earthlings of humans that has never really been offered up before. Now, we were very eager to hear this and began to immediately work with the collective of humanity, with the archangels, particularly Gabriel, to assist in this very, very mild form of containment. But what we have noticed is that the human beings have not really taken up this offer, and it puzzles us. We do not judge it right, wrong, indifferent, but it puzzles us and we wonder why. Why, when it is such a simple undertaking and you can give all kinds of excuses and say, well, our attention span is very short, or I forgot. But what we are truly asking is why? So another question we have for you, and it may sound slightly romantic, but again, I speak in paro this day, is do you love and cherish us? Now, I think Ashira was asking these two questions just to get us more and more into our heart, because at that point back in 2014, I really knew nothing about gender equality. So it's been a process to get to this point. Now, I know Steve has done a lot of work on gender equality, inequality, and equality. Right, Steve?
At the IRB, yes.
Yeah.
That was my specialization.
Yes. So when this came through on An Hour with an Angel,
Oh, heavenly blessings.
they're saying it came through like through Archangel Gabriel and An Hour with an Angel.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not talking about Ashira's. Yes, I remember that. That was a boy. Was that ever
Yeah.
Are you gonna share that one?
Or we can for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Okay. Yeah. So, but I feel like we didn't understand what we were doing. Like we didn't understand the importance of it. You did, but the general light worker population didn't really get it. So, and this is why we didn't really understand that loving and cherishing of ourselves either. So this is amazing that this came through like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look how far we've come now. So,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. So, Ashira says, so when we arrive upon the planet, which is going to be very soon, but soon, I mean, it takes us a while. We're not that swift.
Our bodies can't go that fast.
No, exactly. And he says, and I mean that in the human sense. So he actually says it right there. Are you willing to be part of the what we would call the welcoming committee? We do not just mean a handful of people. We need, and you need, in order to deflect power structures, not fear, but power structures, millions of people to simply declare we welcome and we are not afraid and we do not interfere. And I think he's talking about the systems of beliefs within, so that we've let them go and we're not interfering with ourselves anymore. And Susie says, yes, yes, yes. And Ashira says, so our question to all of you is, are you ready?
Oh, Susie is. Susie is.
Yeah, she is. And then she goes on to say, I don't know if I could say I know a million people that are, but I can certainly imagine that pretty much everybody I've ever spoken to is. Well, maybe not everybody, but a tiny fraction of people would maybe respond with concern, but that's as heavy as it gets. I would say, yes, indeed, come on. And Ashira says, then those are our questions. And Susie says, okay. And he says, for now, and then we have a million questions, just as you do. And Susie says, okay, well, I'll leave the door open for your further questions. That first one I personally can't answer. It's sort of a collective question. So I'll see if I can come up with something. And Ashira says it was posed so that people would think about it because it is a question we have encountered in many universes and many galaxies and many planets. And Susie says, really? Wow. And Ashira says, yes, it is. Well, not exactly the same offer from Gabriel, but the same issue of being offered a way to heal what seems like a very untenable situation and given a very simple solution, and the solution being dismissed because why? And Susie says, because why? Okay, so if I might speak to that for a moment and maybe get further detail on it. We're supposed to gather up the energies that won't honor men or women into the blue topaz box. So if I'm not experiencing gender inequality in my own life, how does that actually look? Do I just imagine where that imbalance is taking place and gather it up? Because like I said, it's not in my experience. But according to Archangel Gabriel, it's in everybody's experience within that control system. So at that point, we didn't really get that. And Ashira says, go to one of the areas that you feel most heinous. For example, go to Somalia or Sudan or Syria, gather up all the people who feel that they have a right to physically mutilate, murder, hurt, injure women, and put them in the box. And then gather every woman who thinks that that's all right and put them in the box as well. It is a healing chamber. So I know that I carried that belief system. It just came down through the family patterns, and yeah, and that it's a really insidious one. And when I found it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And Susie says, all right, I understand. It's good to have that clarity, and maybe having that will increase the participations of humans in this work. Ashira says, we haven't stopped and we won't. So that leads me to believe that topaz box is still up there and we can use it, keep using it, especially on Tuesdays when we do the sending love. She says, all right, I'd like to share an experience I had last Thursday, if I may. And Ashira says, yes, it's really exciting. The snow is mostly gone here, and I had an opportunity to go bring some more firewood into the garage and clean up the wood pile a bit. I love being outside anyway, and the task was an enjoyable, simple one. While I was squatting down and picking up small pieces of wood to use for kindling, I got the idea to invite Star Family to come and participate in my day. What happened next was remarkable because I was filled with such a sense of awe and appreciation over the offer, for one thing, and then for the immediate and powerful sense that this sort of activity simply isn't available on board a ship. The deep knowing came over me that we live on an exquisitely beautiful planet and get to experience things that we might consider at times to be mundane, but are in fact truly unique. I came inside with a renewed and profound appreciation for the privilege of being here now. The perceptual chaos and disintegration happening is hardly what matters when viewed from this perspective. And it's just one of the amazing realizations I've had from this past week. So thank you for that to whoever's been accepting my invitation to hang out. And as Ashira said, you have been accompanied by many and you are welcome. Susie says, that's just wonderful. Ashira says, one of the areas that we like to speak of is the magnificent beauty of your planet. And we have come a very long time, not so all of you can necessarily come on ship. I mean, we are happy when the time is right and we will avoid the chaos of an earlier faux pas. But yes. But the issue isn't coming on board ship and asking for a ride home, whether it is to Venus or Andromeda or anywhere else in the galaxies. The joy is being on this magnificent planet, and you're correct that what you think of as mundane, we think of as spectacular. So it is one of the reasons also why part of the mother's plan has been to keep you in physical form. Gaia is a planet of physicality. It is a planet of such beautiful diversity that you can take lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes. And we are talking the hundreds of years that we all live, but to explore. onboard ship, I've said to you, we have gardens, we grow food, there are animals. Now, did you ever think why? Yes, part of it is we maintain ourselves, but it isn't a necessary vital requirement. It isn't a life force issue. It is to sustain our very souls, and you have it all. Our ship is about the size of many small islands scattered all over the world. To those of you who are not in a contained environment, to be able to walk out and to put your feet in an ocean, to dig in a garden, to hear the rustle of leaves and the flutter of bird wings, to go and collect wood, these are precious gifts. You are correct, dear Suzanne. It puts the rest of the drama in perspective. This would be another question. We know the answers, but we like to pose the questions. Why anyone would choose to keep their head down looking at the pavement in a concrete jungle and never take time to look up and see the sun, to breathe the air, to sense spring coming. This is beyond us. This is why you will have cities of light. This is why they are being co-constructed cities of light, are not merely overrides by your celestial friends. These are being built and they are already underway because they are in what you tend to think of as your future. To have cities where there are flowers and birds and children playing, that is what makes it tolerable, the things that are of beauty. Whether you are in the most remote area on the planet or the most populated, there is always a place for beauty and there's always a place to stop and simply smell the air. Susie, we are very fortunate here, and I'd love everyone to realize that. I do have some questions about your presence around Earth. You've been here longer than we have, I imagine, and as Linda just said to me before the show, like seeks out like. So what are so many galactic ships doing around Earth now? What are the galactics on Earth up to, and does anyone recognize them as such? Oh, increasingly the galactics are on Earth are being recognized. They are being recognized not because they appear inhuman, but because of their energy fields, the stars in their eyes, their slightly different mannerisms and presentation. People are recognizing the difference in the energy fields. So while our form is certainly humanoid, yes, they are being recognized, and by and large, they are being welcomed and welcomed warmly. What we consider sometimes to be a warm welcome is also someone not being forceful or abrasive and saying, you don't look like you're from here. What galaxy are you from? That is rather intrusive to someone who is newly arrived. That is slightly invasive, but we do see that our troops are not only acclimatizing, but yes, being welcomed. Now we have been visiting, shall we say, Earth for tens of thousands of years, and it is like seeks like. Now, obviously we travel at speeds, well, the speed of love, in wormholes. White holes, black holes are used for our travel, and there is interdimensional shifting as well. We do not say this in a way that is dismissive, but you do not know the entire history of Earth. We would not pretend to be your teachers, but we have been observers, and we have known for that long of the beauty, of the magnificence of the race that was created upon this planet. There are many similarities, no, not clones, but similarities, heritages, constructions, constructs, DNA, even dimensional travel that your galactics and intergalactics have with the humans. There have been long periods where we have been in very conscious and active communication with those upon the planet. Now, I speak for many different groups here and different sectors at different times of contacts. But for example, during the time of Atlantis, there were ships from everywhere that would come into spaceport. There was exchange, cultural, scientific, what you think of as commerce, healing, and social exchange, because we sought out one another. We sought out one another, and you welcomed us and sought us out as well. No, not through star travel, but you were on the brink of that. That is why so many of you remember, because it was a normal occurrence for all of you to come on board various ships and travel intergalactically or galactically. You had trade envoys and delegations that made trips as well. That is why sometimes you think, well, I don't think I live, say, on Andromeda, but I know the people, I know the sensation, I know what it's like. It is because you have that soul memory of those travels, or of our travels and our exchanges with you. Then when you've gone through, can we say dark periods, when we went dark in terms of putting up our shields, we put up shields, but we did not stop our interactions with humanity and with Earth. Now, there were some that took advantage of that dark period, but they have since been, can we say, reassigned elsewhere. They are not permitted in this sector or literally in this universe.
Wow. Boy.
Yes. But our history goes much further back in terms of our relationships than human beings imagine. You have your Native American cultures, the knowing of the Anasazi, who are Pleiadian and who visited and intermarried, had a long and prosperous culture, and that is where many of the star seeds were first originated. So when we say that we step back because the illusions, the ego of the humans, we were no longer compatible. It wasn't mere, yes.
Can I just mention that I think he's talking about 1200 BC, when they felt they were no longer welcome and they pulled out, and a dark period descended on the earth.
Before Christ.
No, oh yeah, sorry, 1200 BC before Christ, yes. It's explained as the sea people suddenly coming from nowhere and toppling civilizations. No, it was the galactics who left.
Yes. Okay, I did a meditation once and I saw that it was very much disarray. There was a lot of rape at that point. Did you know about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. And I think that's where our history of that comes into effect. Yeah. It wasn't merely the fact, although that was quite significant, that you would destroy your parent planet, which is why we kept it cocooned, holding the poles intact for hundreds and hundreds of years, because we knew that the evolution, the cycle of humanity would come to a point where you would reawaken and, just like you have said, see the beauty in the woodpile and reinvite us for love, not for what we bring in terms of technology or commerce or trade or science. We sought you out because we knew we could have a loving relationship. It is like you seeing a neighbor down the street and you think, well, that looks like someone I'd like to know. That looks like someone I could be friends with. And you don't know the person. You just feel their energy fields and you think there's something there that is attractive to me. So it was planet to planet, galaxy to galaxy. There are many planets that have very similar construction to Gaia, but the mix on this planet and the energy of the humanoids is exceptional. It is wondrous. We want to be part of it. We want you to know us and love us the way that we know and love you. And Susie says, I want that too. I have a few frequency questions. Can you say anything about the actual frequency number of Gaia and the collective, perhaps in terms of a range? Is there a frequency range that will allow Earth humans to flip between dimensions like you do? And where are we now in relation to maybe 1 year ago? So Ashira says, you're much higher than you were a year ago. And I believe that has been mentioned, but say on a scale of 1 to 10, you are collectively around an 8. Now that is not a static number. Understand that as well. This goes up and down, but when there is a breakout, shall we say, of war or of hostilities, that frequency number, it is like introducing a great deal of static to a beautiful sonata. So it does interfere, but you have increased. Now you're already, this is what you do not all understand. And so I will repeat it and then I'll repeat it again. You are already interdimensional. You already have the frequency and the vibration to be shifting interdimensionally. That has been reached, and it is a matter of bringing that knowing, and that is what the New You group is doing, actually in conjunction to us. So this was around the time when I was in that New You group, and we were learning all about the 13 chakra system, the 12 dimensions. And yeah, it just is. So, and I believe around most planetary systems, according to Albert, is there's the 12 dimensions are there, but we bar ourselves from it with our belief systems of lack. So the more we come out of lack of self-love and lack of self-worth, valuing forgiveness and gratitude and compassion, we literally, our frequency allows us to shift interdimensionally. It is bringing that knowing and that frequency forward so that people begin to use it and utilize it. Each of you have had a sweater or a shirt or a blouse or a t-shirt that has been stuck at the back of your closet and that you have forgotten about, and then you rediscover it and you wear it almost every other day. That is what you're doing with your interdimensional self. It had been hidden, packed away in an old trunk in the attic, but it is out. It has been washed and it is ready for use. Susie says, very nice. Have you been on Earth? And Ashira says, you mean as a full lifetime? And Susie says, well, at all. And Ashira says, I have visited Earth, yes. And Susie says, okay, when you're able to come to the surface now, will there be a situation where each of us will get a mentor to help navigate the changes taking place and maybe get instructions on how to do things like teleport? I get that we're supposed to figure things out on our own, but some of it feels a bit daunting. Have we been given this information to feed our imaginations? Shira says, you're being given this information to stretch what you think you are capable of and to feed your imaginations, as she put it. How we would look at it, what you call mentoring processes, that it could be co-mentoring or pairing. So for example, sweet one, I will teach you how to teleport if you show me how to collect And so he says, oh my gosh, I would be more than happy to make that exchange. And I just want to apologize to everyone for the bird sound. So I don't know if anyone listened to the audio, but her bird started chirping. And she says she can't do anything about it right now. And Ashira says, now you see to us the bird songs, and we are responsible for this because she is talking to us. We enjoy the sound, so my apologies to many if that is distracting you, but to us it is music to our ears. Susie says, okay, good, so now I can relax. As far as physiology, could you please speak to the difference in maybe digestive and respiratory systems? For example, eating when one feels like it rather than to sustain one's life force makes for a pretty remarkable change to a body. And I imagine the shift there will take place well outside anything that we now accept as possible. As far as breathing, here the breath can be used for many things. Is it the same for you? And Ashira says, yes. Now, let us first talk about what you think of as your digestive system. We can adjust our systems as well, but the adjustments can be rather easily made. You always have enough food on Earth to feed everybody. You already do. The ability that you've forgotten is your ability to eat light. You have had holy people, men and women, yogis, that have existed simply by eating light. Now, the human body requires at this point regular or irregular sustenance, which is different from us, but even that is shifting somewhat. It's not a matter of redesigning your digestive systems as much as reminding you that you can inhale, and this relates to the breath, chew and swallow life force. It is in the air around you. It is in the very makeup of your being. You just aren't used to eating unseen molecules. You're very used to the form aspect of food, but what is food except really a collection of molecules and atoms? So that is not really that significant. That will adjust, and some will adjust very rapidly, but there are others who do, and that is part of the diversity. Can you imagine, we look at you, all of you, my delightful family, and there's one of you who says, I don't really care to eat, just give me the light manna from heaven, as it were. And then there's another person who says, let me take 20 different sources of lettuce, mix them together with ambrosia and feed it to you and eat it and delight your senses. That level of diversity is extraordinary to us. We don't want to change that, and I don't think that you would. Now, the harming Gaia with pesticides, with chemicals, etc., is completely unnecessary. So if anything, food is going to taste better. And what they've been showing me this last week is how to breathe very deeply while doing the meditation. So while doing Porlana C meditation and the 13th octave, to really focus on the breath and deep breathing, like breath work. And it's extraordinary. I highly recommend it. Doing the Porlana C and then the 13th octave. It's incredible. So the breathing, I think the breathing is really important, actually. Now, oxygen, many of you remember being mer people or dolphin people or whale people, and being able to breathe differently underneath the waves or in deep space of being able to breathe. So there are adjustments, and these are actually DNA adjustments that are markers on your various strands that are and will be adjusted. So the law of instantaneous transformation and transmission, we'll go back in and look at those markers and the DNA markers there. So that's something that can be adjusted when we do that law. We are not having difficulty in adjusting what you think of as our oxygen or CO2 levels to be able to breathe on Earth. That is not an issue. That was part of the prep that was done thousands of years ago. And of course, we can do this work, or we can understand this now just asking in meditation. So Susie says, wonderful, thank you for that. I have one more question and then we can go to callers. I actually have a lot more questions, but I'll stick with one. Would you kindly speak to the aging process and how we can expect that to shift? A great many of us are looking forward with enthusiasm to being able to choose our physical appearance and apparent age. But once again, it's a step beyond what we think we know is possible in this regard. It's a stretch to say the least. In the old way of thinking, the evolutionary process takes a long time and we won't see it in our lifetimes. There are a lot of elders who don't feel they have a lot of time to enjoy the changes. So can you please speak to that? Ashira said, this is a complex question, but I will endeavor to answer it quite directly. Now, there are three factors. First is the false grid, the false belief system that evolved as an exercise in control in the old third dimension that you have and are leaving behind, that death and degeneration was inevitable and it was a ploy to keep you under control. So that if you were tended to, and this is a rich, poor, healthy, non-healthy issue, if you were tended to, you got to live longer. If you were attended to, it also meant that you towed the line, that you were not against the systems that were in place. So that is being dissolved first and foremost. So that's the belief in death, that control system within, and probably disease too. Secondly, what you think of as time and what we use as time are different. This is part of the interdimensional shift, but think of a timeline in terms of a ruler. You tend to give yourself about 3 inches out of a foot and it's very static. Whereas we take the whole ruler, the whole 12 inches, think of it as long, long waves. We are traveling intergalactically. It is almost flat line waves. We don't age the way you do. Our existence and rejuvenation is much longer because we know how to sustain ourselves, but also the whole framework within which we are operating is different. Now, the human experience is shifting. As you shift, you ascend to the longer wave pattern. So the static is the old belief systems, the hatred, the sorrow, the shame, the guilt, the anxiety. That's what keeps it staticky. The peace, the joy, the love, that's the long wave. So the more we're in that place of forgiveness and compassion and gratitude, that's the long wave system. Now, what does that also do? What gives you the appearance of aging isn't even the fact that you only took 3 inches, is the ego and the emotional turmoil, as well as what you put in your bodies that creates the aging. As you begin to stretch it out, you begin to calm the emotional field, you begin to calm the ego, you calm the mental field, and you begin to rejuvenate. Now, when you're also not putting poisons in your body, which many of you have already adapted to, that creates a stronger life force as well. None of you who are on the planet were intended, Mother's plan, not ours, to age in the way that you do. This is simply not true. So the rejuvenation is starting, and you can see it in yourselves, especially you who are light workers. There are days if you are 50 and you look in the mirror and you say, I look 20 today. And then there are other days when you say, oh, I am back to 50. But increasingly, what you're going to do is claim the 20. So it is also a matter of you claiming and utilizing what we'd call the creation codes to simply revitalize your bodies. And then when I was doing this, into my head popped Archangel Gabriel saying, fill yourself with my golden elixir, for it will permeate every cell, every pore, every organ, your blood, everything, and it renews you. Joy is the anti-aging agent of the century, and it makes you beautiful and radiant because there's nothing more beautiful than joy. And as we have learned, that joy is a balancing place as well. It's being in gratitude for purpose and connected to the solar plexus. Now, when you are in healing chambers that are very and increasingly available to humanity, you can have rejuvenation treatments. So it is literally a reversal. It is a revitalization of all your organs, including your skin, your hair, your body. Susie says, okay, so when you go to the healing chambers, you can ask for that. Susie says, beautiful. In my heart, what I'm most looking forward to is reunion, hanging out with you, getting to know you, establishing relationships. That's the most exciting part to me. So I'm really grateful for these discussions. And Ashira says, that is what is exciting to us. You have so much to share with us, and we welcome that sharing. So then they moved on to the callers, and David called in. He said, how can I create something with the food that we have here that tastes similar to that which you like to eat? And Ashira says, oh, let me tell you, my friends will tell you, there's very little that I don't like to eat, because as you know, it is a social occasion. It is a sensory occasion. You have a wonderful variety of fruits and vegetables available to you. What we would suggest to you, and this is because you're one of the ones who loves to play with tastes, is just experiment. I am not going to give you the intergalactic recipe book, but play with it. Put papaya with fennel, grapefruit with romaine, play with it. And when you are doing so, when you are putting particularly the green, always, because it is love, but all of this food is a collection of life force. There is a tendency, we have noted on the part of many humans, and this is why you have so many poor food choices, is that you put food in your mouth and you swallow it without really tasting it. You don't hold it in your palate, in your mouth, to allow all the tastes to sing their chorus, as it were, and then to chew and swallow. You are just swallowing. So spend more time in your mouth. That's what it's for. Well, it is for many things, but where food is concerned, it is to experience the delight. So let it be in your mouth. And I think Lee and Pamela were talking about that yesterday. So yeah, it's nice to hear Ashira say that. And then somebody else called in and she said, I have a galactic on Earth kind of question. My husband and I were lucky enough to meet Linda at the 2012 Scenario Conference back in 2012, and we fell in love with Sedona. We went back last September and we were at the top of Cathedral Rock Vortex, and we met a family with 2 men and 4 young children. I'd say maybe between the ages of 5 and 10. The kids were brave, jumping from rock to rock, and it made me super nervous because there's a lot of huge drops up there. I thought it was very unusual about how laid back the men were about the children jumping around. The men seemed just a little different somehow. I was driving down the road a few weeks ago and it crossed my mind that there was that was a galactic family, and I'm wondering if that could be right. And Ashira says that is absolutely correct. Just have to plug myself in. For you know that what you would think of as the arrival portal for many in the area of Sedona, the city of light, that is already activated is the Bell Rock. There are tunnels and integration chambers, shall we say, that emerge into Cathedral Rock. So you were simply witnessing a recent emergence of a family having a picnic, having a human experience, and we knew that you would not interfere. They knew that you would not interfere, that they were safe with you. Okay, So then the next question is, hi, I want to welcome you first from all of us. I want to join the welcome team. I'm really excited to talk to you. My question is that right now on planet Earth, our main exploration is regarding free will. You know what I mean? In the past, most of humanity hasn't even explored free will as a planet, a collective. When I think about other civilizations like Andromeda, I am curious, what is their path to follow? Could you give us some ideas, like differences in migrations? What is it that they explore as a collective? And Ashira says, as a collective, we explore various civilizations. But if you're asking what we explore upon Earth, we revel and we bask in the beauty of this planet. But the most interesting exploration is around you, not in any kind of intrusive way, but that is why our questions emanate around you. Our explorations are around the human species, because out of all the changes that are taking place upon the planet, the cosmetic restoration of Gaia, the elevated interdimensionality of the kingdoms, the most fascinating is the humans, how they think, what they are interested in, what they are exploring. It gives us indicators of what is important to you, both in your minds, societally, but in your hearts. We measure and we observe collectively the growth of your heart. And if you are in contact with us, which of course many of you are on a heart level especially, then we measure the growth of your heart. That is what we explore. And then in closing, he says, first of all, my beloved friends, earlier with Inlight Radio, you had a program called Galactic Family. And this was very appropriate name because we are your galactic and intergalactic family. Was that with Graham, Steve?
I
Galactic.
don't remember something called our galactic family.
Okay.
I'm
I think,
sorry.
I think it was Graham that had that show.
Maybe, yeah.
That is how we think of you, and that is how we pray that you will think of us. Yes, we do pray. Yes, we do meditate. Yes, we gather in groups to create, to visualize, and to bring forth. And what we bring forth, dear friends, at this time is our being together. Forget about government disclosure and think about our family reunion. And that is why we want you to know us as we know and love and cherish and honor and respect each and every one of you. Invite us to help with the laundry, with dinner, selective A, farewell. And Susie says, farewell, love you. And Ashira says, and we love you. And that's that for that channeling.
I just remember what he's talking about, our galactic family.
Okay.
It's the video called
Oh,
Our Galactic Family is Here or something.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
And it got
Graham,
millions of views.
good.
Yeah, remember when we asked about that?
Yeah,
And
Graham asked us to take it down because it identified him.
right. Oh, it was an incredible video. I wonder if we could put it up now.
I'll ask Graham.
Yeah.
We can restore it. Yeah.
Yeah, because on the YouTube with the number of hits it had, it was quite a low number. But then when we asked, they said that YouTube was fiddling around with it. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Graham. I'll put that
Yeah.
down.
So again, so much information in these old channelings. Mhm.
I'm enjoying you reading these old channelings.
Oh, you are good.
Oh, very much. I hope you do some more, like Gabrielle.
Yeah, in the Topaz box. Yeah, for sure. I think we might have already done that because that's where we brought up the Topaz box, and we might have, I think we did that one when I was talking gender equality, because I did many sessions on gender equality. But yeah, we've got 2 more with Ashira, and he's going to start talking about universal laws. So that's really amazing when he does, because he really simplifies it. Yeah. But did you have any questions, Lillian or Ken, about all that information? Or comments?
I don't think I had any questions about the information, except for this, where they were talking about the food and the way we can help ourselves regenerate um, and maybe there are some other ways that we could help people.
Mhm.
Not sure, but I got the feeling that there were some other ways we could help people. I don't know.
Well, I think it's just sending out that knowing that there's enough food on planet for everyone, because there is a feeling of scarcity right now. There's a lot more people accessing the food banks, like especially Canada. I know for sure. I don't know what it's like in America, but I'm sure if it's that way in Canada, it's maybe similar where you are. Mhm.
That's just with the Western world. That's just with the haves versus the have-nots.
Exactly. So even in our meditation, sending out that knowing that there's enough for everybody here, more than enough. Mhm. Yeah. And embracing like the enjoyment of the food and also the breathing of the air, the light in the air. And while doing Linda's meditations, it really makes it's really something. Deeper breathing while you're doing it, like real deep, regular breathing as you're doing the meditation, and it fits with all the words too. Mhm. Yeah.
Can I just make a comment about the blue topaz box?
Yes,
Since Ashira is probably listening at this moment.
absolutely.
It just seemed to me a little too far out in some domain that I didn't want to go to say, okay, let's put everybody in a blue topaz box. It's like, excuse me? And I just didn't want to go that far.
Okay.
There's other things that we or I will be stating, which are enough to challenge people's belief.
Mhm.
To think that I'm taking people, putting them in a blue topaz box, which is one step beyond.
Okay. I think they're encouraging us to use our imagination to, and that's part of intent, like yeah. And it would create a system of us working on it actually within ourselves. So if we're etherically extending ourselves inside and lifting people up, that is actually helping us because we are all one.
Yeah.
And that's us working with the oneness energy and imagination. Yeah. So there may be a little bit of when we control the imagination too. That's a good system to look at. Did that happen to you when you were little? Like, was that ever told
No.
to you by mom and dad not to use your imagination?
Yeah, my dad was a realist. Yeah, he didn't like me being a dreamer, even though that's my job.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So that may have something to do with it, possibly.
yeah.
Mhm.
Also, if you look at imagination, I can't imagine something I know nothing about.
Mhm.
Imagine a sea squelch.
What?
Well, there you go. Imagine a sea squelch. Can't do it, right?
Well, I have a good imagination. I can't imagine that.
It's yours. The
Yeah.
sea squelch is yours.
Yeah.
It's hard to, well, I don't think I can imagine something I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
when one sits still and drops out of the mind into the heart, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And the way I grew up, my dad would say nothing is impossible.
Yes.
So I grew up with that. And then I grew up with a lot of childhood books that were very imaginative.
Uh-huh.
So I have a slightly different upbringing, I think, and that may contribute to me being able to imagine things. So even going back and just looking at the systems that you dropped yourself into,
Right.
volunteering, and then that can help with working with the galactics in that real imaginative way that they're encouraging us to do, to help the within systems, the belief systems dissolve, the ones that don't work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So interesting that they're getting us to use our imagination the way they are.
It's
Mhm.
amazing to have these transcripts. I mean, these are people on spaceships who are talking, right?
Yeah. And they're talking to us about food and daily life.
Yeah.
And yet explaining these really high concepts of physics
Yeah,
in as simple as they can for us to understand.
yes, right.
Mm. Like when we talk on Friday, I'll go more into the rejuvenation piece because Ashira did actually come and explain some of that to me.
Good.
And I wrote something about it. So yeah, but I'll pull up some of the points and then maybe we can just have another discussion on Friday
Good.
if that's of interest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, good.
When I think about the blue,
to, I need a bio break. I'll be right back.
Okay. When you think about the blue topaz box,
it's the same thing with Steve. I don't like to put people in that box kind of thing,
okay.
but I just noticed when I expand it out and put the whole earth in, I like that because it's like it's the whole earth.
Yeah.
And it's everybody, and it's like it's kind of like, oh gee, the whole earth is in this beautiful topaz box.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's gorgeous in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny? It just reminded me of my building. So they changed up the windows they were single pane,
Yeah.
changed them to double pane, and it took a couple of years, but they put us under this blue tarp. And it was amazing. We didn't know whether it was raining out or not. And we would end up in the lobby, a whole bunch of us with no umbrella, and have to go back upstairs and get umbrellas because we all thought it was beautiful out. But that's a really good point about, because that's what I do with the blue topaz box. I just put
Everybody in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole earth instead of
yeah, yeah,
somehow, yeah, because if you just put people in this, it seems like it's confining.
mhm,
Putting people in prison.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
But if you put the whole earth in, it's like, oh, everybody's in here. It's like a party now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to open up our eyes so that we see from a different perspective
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
non-judgment perspective, and we drop the belief systems
Yeah.
that are so difficult to live with, the gender inequality.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Very good.
Yeah, that's very good. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that was a great class. Thank you for showing up, everybody.
Plus, there's just this huge amount of fascinating material.
Yes,
Where have you ever heard somebody from outer space talking?
no. And I mean, most people think of the galactics as not so heart-centered. Like they're so heart-centered. It's all about us being brothers and sisters and family.
Mhm.
And everyone getting along, and like that's the shift. That's our ascension.
Yeah.
That's the family reunion.
Yeah, but that's been the, I don't know where it started with the idea that the galactics are here to harm us and they're evil. And I suppose at one time when they were screwing with our DNA, there was problems there. But I don't think people have, what do I want to say here, enough experience with it to know. I mean, what they're doing is they're going on hearsay. It's almost like the same thing with the COVID stuff. It's not real, and there's no way for them to get a reality check.
Mhm.
It's it's experiential rather than just hearsay, I guess is what I would say.
Right. Okay. So I personally, I think everything that's happened has been in divine order. COVID had a reason for something. All of us going into lockdown to give the planet a rest, to experience being with self rather than out running around in the world and keeping really busy. I don't know. I'm not sure the role of the vaccines, but there was all of that as well. It brought up a lot of anxiety to be to the surface, to be released.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Okay. Yeah. And all these movements, the Me Too movement, the movement with Greta Thunberg and the climate, mobilizing millions of young people, Black Lives Matter, Roe v. Wade, all of it's doing is mobilizing the people to change, really. It's bringing the old issues up to the surface. It's like our downtown east side in Vancouver. All that homelessness issues are on the surface to be addressed. And that's the light workers letting go of these old belief systems so that it does rise to the surface, to be so in the physical without, to be addressed and changed is the way that I'm beginning to perceive it. And with thanks to the topaz box. Sitting in that topaz box. I used to, when the topaz box came out, I would just put myself in it. I just go,
You're only one there. Waiting for someone else.
yeah, I would just sit myself in it because I was like, I know there's things are not the way they should be within. I don't get it though. I don't really get it. I used to have to ask Steve what gender inequality was. I didn't even know. So, and so it's been a steady journey of asking lots of questions and really asking what it is within to figure out what's going on this planet.
Yeah, what's happening on planet Earth.
Yeah, but I think all that chaos out there is there for a reason, for us to look at it from a different perspective, from the blue topaz box perspective of non-judgment. Yeah.
I forget what the blue topaz box is. I know it's colors and stuff like that, but I forget what it is.
It was for placing anybody that harmed women in there so they could see what they were doing. And
Okay.
And any women that believe that that was okay. Because there's lots of women that think it's okay to harm women.
So it's a reality check.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And as Lillian said, you can put it right around the whole planet.
No, okay, now that I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, exactly. And we all carry that system within. Like, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have that control system within.
I was on the bus today and I noticed that my gaze was just going on good-looking women again.
Mhm.
Give me a break. So that's part of that system, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we all carry it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's at the surface. We're really conscious of it now. Fantastic. Bless yourselves. That's the joy piece. That's the rejuvenation factor that we're there. Yeah. Yeah.
Domini.
Absolutely. That blessing of self is huge. Forgiveness of everything and gratitude to self for the courage it's taken to be here. Incredible. And then you just fall into compassion, which is non-judgment of everything. And then you can have fun. You just go everywhere and anywhere. And there's no trigger, like you just flow like water, blessing everything, basically. As the light. So you can flow like water with the light emanating out.
Also, your mind goes quiet under those circumstances.
Yes, it's really easy to listen to people.
Yeah.
Like when I go into the downtown east side and sit with the sex workers, literally, I'm not really saying that much. They have so much to say.
Right.
And then they will ask, when I do the cards, they'll ask, okay, help. And then that's when I start speaking. But sometimes I don't say anything, they just talk. 'Cause that's a nice healing when someone listens. Yeah, it's very helpful. That's what happened to Steve and I when we went traveling down through California. Oh my gosh, we didn't say a word. And when we did, people were yawning.
Yeah. I gave a lecture on enlightenment is the purpose of life or something like that. And they weren't interested in hearing it.
That was in 2014. And at that point, I had nothing to say. So it was great. I was happy to listen because I was really nervous. What the heck are we doing this trip for?
One who's-
Oh,
Yeah, it was nice to get, one of the things that I liked about last night is Donald got a chance to get
Yeah.
a lot of stuff off his chest.
Donald Trump?
No, Donald from Montreal, and he said some really brilliant things.
Yeah, that's right.
Phone call to one of his old girlfriends. Wow, did he clear the air? That's what's underneath cancer. That hatred of self, that control, that's a control system. And then he's now working his way through it. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Mhm. I've had quite a few cancer patients in the reading room. And so when I explain to them what's underneath it, then it's like, it's very helpful. And a lot of them already know that. They've done specific counseling and found the issues. So it's really a manifestation of the old belief systems, all illness. And what Gabriel told us was it's underneath all of it is gender inequality. So it's good. It's really good. We're having this discussion. We shall just multiply us group of 4, multiply this conversation out as far and wide as it can go. And that's it. And the Galactics will happily do that. Yep.
So if we take everybody and we put them in the topaz box, in terms of being able to understand the gender inequality, where does the piece come in where the healing is done? Is this just recognition?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Well, wait a minute. If you recognize, say, in this case, gender inequality in oneself, the act of recognizing it will cause it to start to disappear. And also the act of recognizing it will make it harder to do because you're now aware of it, right?
Right.
And so the lifting of belief systems like that is itself the healing. Underneath it, you're pure and innocent.
Got it.
And there's the debris sitting on top of it. So that's the healing, is just simply to recognize it, let it go, recognize it, let it go, recognize it, let it go.
Yep. Awareness sets you free.
Yeah, it's dissolutive.
Mhm. Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, and then being in gratitude to yourself is like blessing yourself. That's the joy. That's the rejuvenation. That's another huge healing.
That's
Understanding everything's forgiven and blessing yourself for the awareness.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
And
the
we fall-
capstone,
Yeah, and then you fall into the compassion in the heart space, that heart consciousness, and that's the non-judgment. One of my guides told me right from the very start, the only mistake we make is in judgment of self or another.
that's that, yeah.
Yeah.
And that breaks the bond, right? I'm more than you.
Mhm,
Oh, well, I guess we're not connected now then, eh?
mhm.
That's for me is the worthiness issue. Because
Yeah.
when I think of myself as worthy, then I don't need to judge anybody else or anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. It's also a love issue when you find yourself in the higher dimensions, the love that is there, just it annihilates all judgments. They just don't, how can I say it? Well, just as a soapy water would annihilate a stain, love annihilates judgments and all these not very useful beliefs.
Mhm.
Right.
So like Steve said, he was looking at attractive women on the bus over and over. So you can literally just ask yourself, where did that originate? And then
I actually know.
where did it originate?
Oh, young boys play a baseball game, right, Ken? Did you get first base, second base, third base, fourth, home base, whatever. So a kiss is first base, and I'm not going to go into it, but anyways, you can imagine what second base is and third base and fourth base. That's where it originates with me playing that stupid game.
But where did you learn that?
Young kids, boys.
Okay, so can you forgive the ones that taught you that?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
good. Now can you bless them?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, no problem with that.
Okay, so and where's the blessing? What's the gratitude? How are you in gratitude for them teaching you that?
Well, it showed me how belief systems could really negatively affect people, like women. I've lived with a woman for 7 years, I think. 7 years, I think it's 7 years. And the amount of time she spends in front of the mirror, holy mackerel, the amount of, you should see the boxes and boxes of skin creams and hair colors and holy mackerel, that's what we have done by making the woman the sign, what the sociologists call the cynosure, the object, the cynosure of gaze. Everybody's looking at the woman, so to speak, who's dressed up in a certain way and got stuff on their face and that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it started with the kids on the school ground.
Okay, I'm wondering, since it's still running, since it's easy for you to forgive and bless them, there's something underneath that. You learned it before that.
It is still running.
Yeah, so it should be dissolved in deep forgiveness of the children and blessing them for the awareness and the
Absolutely.
teaching,
Right?
but you're still not in the compassion. So I believe there's another layer to it. You need, once you get to,
Could be.
yeah, and it probably goes back to mom, dad, or self somehow.
For me, that whole thing was about safety, feeling safe, because in the event where my father, came in out of nowhere and taught me about fear that is, what I want to say here, the kind of fear that just comes out of nowhere. And then for me, the thing is, I was trying to get through women was to feel safe. Now, another aspect of that was also that I was giving up my power in terms of wanting to put women on pedestals and have them take care of me. And so it created this really weird dynamic where I wanted to be close to women, and I was self-sabotaging myself because I was afraid of giving up my power.
Mhm.
So yeah, I recognize that I do that every once in a while, and then I bring myself back. I realize that it's part of the ego in there. I'm not sure there is a way for me to go to one particular point and say, aha, that was the beginning. Because I think some of this went on. Well, my mother was very sexy and manipulated. So that's how she kept control of us. Or at least me, I don't remember, but and my father put my mother up on a pedestal, so that's how I learned about that. But yeah, I'm beginning to get to the point where sometimes I don't think about women as objects. So I see the people instead of just what they represent.
Mhm.
So, and that's been a, what do I want to say, an evolution kind of a thing rather than snapping my fingers and saying, aha, that's it.
Mhm. Yeah, the journey,
Yep.
yeah, for sure. And it's just getting to the point where you're seeing where the belief system probably came down through the family lines. Like your mom carried certain belief systems, dad did, and then you're like a little sponge and you're just sponging them up without even knowing what we're sponging up. And it's like a journey of hundreds of lifetimes. It's not
Yes.
just one
Yeah.
lifetime.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too.
It's been so what I found is the more I cleaned up my root around my mom and dad's systems, the family systems that came in, just bless them, forgive them, thank them. It's been a great journey. Wow, what an adventure. Then that type of work literally will ripple down into the other lifetimes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it just cleans it all up. But it's getting to the point where you're just loving your mom and dad for, okay, great, you played an amazing role. I really learned what doesn't work here. And what an adventure. And I know we're all best friends on the other side. We all just love each other. And it's just been a wild adventure. And we're all in this oneness of love. And like what Ashira is trying to get us to remember. Mhm.
Yep. Well,
Mhm. Yes.
I
I
So
have to think.
Given my dad, yeah. Haven't quite.
you haven't quite forgiven your dad. Okay.
Holding on.
Okay, so he may have carried that belief system of judgment of women, the way that your mind is still operating. So yeah,
Well, my grandfather,
yes.
big
Yes,
time, yeah.
right. So it probably came into dad a little milder, came into you. Yeah, yeah. So it's forgiving the male piece, and ultimately it's forgiving self.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we've played all those roles. We've done that and much worse. I know. So the ultimate thing with me was forgiving myself.
What about the fact that we've been both genders? I'm
Yes.
wondering how that fits into this whole thing.
Well, we wanted to play all the roles so that we'd get to this point and be compassion for every single being on this planet. Because
Okay.
we don't have the wisdom to judge anyone because we played it all too.
Okay.
We don't have the wisdom to judge any of the leaders. We've all been leaders to varying degrees of control, using varying degrees of control. And yeah, so we just don't have the wisdom to judge anyone. Yeah. And especially self. Especially self.
Well, that was interesting what you said about not having the wisdom to judge. I don't know. When I start to judge, I feel like I'm in this thick goo and I'm starting to drown, so to speak.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Mhm. Yeah. And then if you can just pop your head out a little bit and ask yourself where it originated and then do the cleanup work. around where it originated, it will eventually fall back to that acceptance of self, to a no judgment of self.
You mean underneath the issues and the garbage?
Yeah.
There will be the acceptance of self.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, when I start to get into those judgment phases with other people, I recognize it and then I start to pull back, but I also judge myself at that point then.
So, yeah. Is there a particular being that you judge, like when you watch the news or something?
Is there a particular what?
Like a being, like would you judge a certain leader, like say a Putin or a Trump or is there a particular being?
Or an Asian or a black or.
I don't know. I dislike them all. I'll say that.
Because normally they're metaphorically someone in your family.
You're an
Every,
equal opportunity judge.
yeah, yeah. Like, for instance, if someone's really struggling with Trump, and there were a lot of women that really struggled with Trump, well, that's a metaphor for somebody in the family system that they grew up in that
Sure.
operated like that. It's never Trump. It's always someone. It usually goes back to someone in the family from 0 to 9-ish. Someone, yeah.
I'm still struggling with the power piece because I don't want to admire somebody and then realize that I've given up my power. So the only person that I would say that I admire is Yeshua
Okay.
because of that.
Okay. Well, but what's the worry about the power, though?
Well, the power is about not being in control. And that gets back to stuff like when I was a victim, when I was a dolphin and I drowned in the net, or apparently suffocating is my worst fear. So there are lots of instances that I can remember where I did suffocate or felt like I suffocated. Maybe it's that I felt like I suffocated and I really didn't. In other words, if I don't allow myself, no one can do that kind of thing to me except me.
Mhm.
So,
Except what?
well, no one can make me feel bad about me except me.
Yes, yes, right. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
So
So why are you making yourself feel bad?
I think it's force of habit at some point.
Yeah, often it just does boil down to force of habit.
Because when I tell myself that I am worthy, all that kind of goes away.
Beautiful.
Great.
So,
Yeah. And the other person you can call in is the Divine Mother.
Yes.
When something seems like it's just repeating and repeating and repeating, call in the Mother. And in the calling of the Divine Mother, you're demonstrating your worthiness.
I'm demonstrating what?
Your worthiness.
Oh, my worthiness. Okay, sure.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Good. I'll remember to do that.
Yes. And then
That
literally, you can put your hands on your heart and you can ask for whatever it is that's bothering you, whether it's judgment or whatever, to be released. the mother will take it. And you just roll your hands out and give it to her. And she will
Maybe
take it away.
Even wrap it up in the universal law.
Yep, a law of elimination.
Yeah.
Or the dispensation of grace. You can call on the Divine Mother and the dispensation of grace.
Yeah.
Ask for the dispensation of grace. That will be immediate.
I'm gonna have to skedaddle. I've got to be somewhere at 7 soon.
Nicely done, Ken.
Yeah, nicely done.
It's beautiful. Okay. And you're never giving your power away. It's impossible.
Well, that's it. It's a fear of that rather than actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fear isn't real.
Yep.
Mhm.
Thanks, you guys.
You're so
Yeah.
welcome. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
great.
All righty. Well,
Okay.
until Friday then.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Friday.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.